It started with a voice that echoed across galaxies. I am from beyond. Slay your enemies, and all you desire shall be yours. And with that one sentence, Marvel's first multiversal war began. This was Secret Wars, 1984, the event that changed the comic book landscape forever. But before we unravel the chaos, make sure you subscribe, because this is the story of how a cosmic experiment turned into a god-level war, and how, decades later, it would all happen again, but on a scale the multiverse couldn't survive. The year was 1984. Marvel wanted to create something huge, a story that brought every hero and villain together in one massive crossover. But instead of just a marketing gimmick, they stumbled into mythology. Because the man behind it all wasn't a man at all. It was the Beyonder. From his realm outside existence, the Beyonder watched the Marvel Universe with childlike curiosity. He didn't understand conflict, desire, or struggle. So he decided to study it firsthand. He ripped pieces of planets from across the galaxy, stitched them together into a new world, and called it Battleworld. Then, with a single thought, he teleported dozens of heroes and villains there. The Avengers, Fantastic Four, X-Men, Spider-Man, and Hulk on one side, and Doctor Doom, Magneto, Ultron, Galactus, and countless others on the other. It was good versus evil, but not for glory, for survival. At first, the heroes tried to make sense of it. Captain America tried to lead. Spider-Man cracked jokes to hide fear. Even Thor questioned the nature of this god, who could pull worlds apart. But the Beyonder didn't care for their confusion. He watched, measured, learned. Every victory, every betrayal, it was all part of his experiment to understand what it meant to want. Then came Doctor Doom. He didn't care about the Beyonder's game. He cared about the player. He wanted that power for himself. As the others fought for survival, Doom studied. He stole. He schemed. Eventually, he confronted the Beyonder directly, a mere man against a being who could unmake creation. And somehow he won. Doom absorbed the Beyonder's energy, becoming God Emperor Doom before that name even existed. For a moment, he ruled all of Battleworld. He reshaped reality, healed his scars, and stood as a mortal turned god. But the power was too much. The Beyonder's consciousness lived inside him, and it tore its way back out, ripping Doom apart and resetting the world. When the heroes finally returned home, they were changed. Spider-Man carried back a mysterious black suit, an alien symbiote that would one day become Venom. The X-Men carried new rivalries, and the Thing chose to stay behind. Because Battleworld had given him what no one else could, a place where he could be Ben Grimm, not a monster. It was supposed to end there. But the idea of secret wars, of worlds colliding, of gods playing with existence, would never die. Decades later, it would all return. But this time, the stakes weren't one world. They were every world. Because in 2015, Marvel brought back the name Secret Wars, but this time, it wasn't just a test. It was the death of the multiverse itself. 30 years after the first Secret Wars, Marvel brought the concept back, but this time, it wasn't a game. It was the end. This was Secret Wars, 2015, a story that didn't just shake the Marvel Universe, it erased it. The seeds were planted long before the war began. Across the multiverse, realities began to collide. Two Earths from different universes would appear in the same space, and if neither was destroyed, both would die. This phenomenon was called an incursion, and it was unstoppable. World after world burned. Universes vanished like sparks in the dark. Not even the gods understood what was happening. But somewhere in the shadows, someone was watching. Doctor Doom. Doom discovered the truth. The collapses weren't random. They were caused by the Beyonders. Not the Beyonder from 1984, but an entire race of omnipotent beings from outside reality. They weren't observing the multiverse anymore. They were ending it. For them, destruction was an experiment, a way to study the death of existence itself. They even killed the living tribunal, the cosmic judge of all realities. That was the moment everything changed. Because if he could die, then nothing was safe. Desperate, Doom teamed up with the Molecule Man, a being whose powers were connected to the Beyonders' energy. And what they discovered was horrifying. Every molecule man in every universe was a living bomb, created by the Beyonders to destroy the multiverse simultaneously. Doom's plan? Use that same flaw to strike back. He confronted the Beyonders directly, a mortal man challenging gods beyond creation. And in the greatest act of defiance in Marvel history, Dr. Doom killed the Beyonders. But victory came with a price. The multiverse was still collapsing, and Doom couldn't save everything. So he did what he does best. He took control. He gathered what fragments remained of dying universes and fused them into one patchwork reality. A place built from the corpses of countless worlds. He called it Battleworld. This wasn't the Battleworld of 1984. This was an empire of survival. A world ruled by God Emperor Doom, a being who had absorbed the Beyonders' power and remade reality in his image. Entire regions of this new planet were divided into domains, each ruled by twisted versions of familiar characters. There was the Deadlands, filled with Marvel zombies. Doomguard, where Thors served as Doom's police force. The Wastelands, haunted by Old Man Logan. And New York, protected by a powerless Peter Parker who barely remembered the life he'd lost. Everyone lived under Doom's divine law, and they worshipped him as a god. But somewhere deep in the fabric of this new world, something still stirred. A fragment of the old universe had survived, a small vessel known as the Lifeboat, built by Mr. Fantastic, Black Panther, and a handful of heroes who had escaped the final incursion. They emerged on Battleworld, confused and horrified. Their mission was simple: restore the multiverse. And to do that, they had to dethrone a god. Meanwhile, Doom's former ally, Dr. Strange, served as his right hand, the sheriff of reality. But Strange knew the truth. Doom wasn't a savior. He was a tyrant holding creation hostage. When the surviving heroes confronted Doom, Strange hesitated, and Doom, in a rage, killed him. That moment lit the fuse. The illusion shattered. The war for reality had begun again. As chaos spread, the heroes found survivors, including Miles Morales, who carried a spark of hope from the destroyed Ultimate Universe. Together, they rallied against Doom's rule. And when Mr. Fantastic finally confronted Doom face to face, it wasn't with fists. It was with truth. Reed told him, "You didn't save us because you love the world. You saved it because you wanted to be god of it." For the first time, Doom had no answer. Their fight wasn't just physical, it was philosophical. A clash between creation and control, between the man who wanted to fix everything and the man who believed he already had. In the end, Reed and Doom's powers intertwined. Their energies ripped through Battleworld's heart. And out of that destruction came rebirth. The Molecule Man, now awakened, used Reed's imagination and compassion to rebuild the multiverse from scratch. Reality was rewritten. Worlds were reborn. And Doom was healed. For the first time in his life, Victor Von Doom's face was whole. And so was his soul. The Fantastic Four vanished into the stars, becoming architects of a new cosmos. And the world, the Marvel Universe, began anew. But the echoes of Secret Wars never truly faded. Because from 1984 to 2015, it wasn't just about gods or wars. It was about power, what happens when you get it, and what it takes to let it go. And for Dr. Doom, that lesson defined everything he would become. With the multiverse rebuilt, most believed the wars were finally over. But Marvel never lets peace last long. Because the events of Secret Wars 2015 were not just an ending, they were a lesson in power, consequence, and ambition. Battleworld was gone. The fragments of universes had been restored. But Victor Von Doom had changed. He had absorbed the Beyonders' power. He had ruled as a god. He had seen the multiverse die. And yet, when the dust settled, he chose restraint. But the mark of Secret Wars lingered everywhere. In the post-Battleworld Marvel Universe, characters remembered the fragments of the worlds that had died. New alliances were formed. Old enemies were forever altered. For example, Miles Morales became a symbol of hope from a destroyed world. Peter Parker returned, but older, wiser, burdened by loss. Dr. Doom, once a tyrant god, now walked the earth, carrying the weight of omnipotence he had surrendered. The concept of Battleworld itself became a template. Marvel used it to explore what happens when a single being has ultimate power. When the Beyonders tested the multiverse, and when Doom tried to master it, it forced heroes and villains alike to define their own limits. Every story since then traces back to that collision. Secret Wars wasn't just a story. It was a warning. Even the strongest cannot control everything. Even the wisest cannot predict all outcomes. And even gods are shaped by the choices of mortals. Interestingly, the 1984 and 2015 versions of Secret Wars share a core theme. In 1984, the Beyonder tested desire, curiosity, and morality. In 2015, the Beyonders tested mortality, ambition, and the consequences of omnipotence. In both cases, power without understanding is dangerous. But the stakes in 2015 were cosmic. Not just a planet or a world, entire multiverses hung in the balance. And it was Dr. Doom, the human among gods, who ultimately became the fulcrum of reality itself. After the multiverse was restored, Marvel took advantage of this rebirth. Heroes returned to familiar roles, but with new experiences. Villains became more complex, carrying scars of battles beyond comprehension. The universe itself became more flexible, able to weave together multiple realities and timelines. Secret Wars taught the Marvel Universe a hard truth. No being, not even a god, can control everything. And yet, the Beyonders still exist. They are outside the multiverse, watching, waiting, perhaps curious again. Because if one god can start a war, and a human can end it, then the cycle of creation, destruction, and rebirth is endless. Secret Wars, both 1984 and 2015, are reminders that the universe is not a playground. It is a story of power, responsibility, and consequences. And one day, someone or something may write the next chapter. So the next time you see heroes fighting villains, or the Marvel Multiverse collapsing in another event, remember, it all began with a god who wanted to study desire, and a human who wanted to be more than a man. That is the legacy of Secret Wars.